Okay, today I'm going to show you how to paint this painting. It's a nice little cupcake with a glass of milk. Alright, to do this we're going to set up, and what we have already set up is we've got our titanium white, our cerulean blue, green light, magenta, crimson, Prussian blue, burnt umber, and a little bit of yellow ochre. We also have 3 size brushes. We've got a large one, and then we have a round tip and a flat tip. Okay, to start we're going to load our brush up with some of the green. So here I just have straight green, and I'm going to kind of give my horizon, and I'm just going to X it on. Okay. While I have some of this green, I'm going to put some water on it, and I'm going to go ahead and outline where I think I want my cup to go. It doesn't have to be perfect, we're just kind of putting it in here so we know where it's going to be. Same with our cupcake. Okay. That way we can make sure we've got it where we want it. Alright, now that I've got that, let's go ahead and finish doing our green. You can add in a little white every now and then. And it doesn't matter if you go over your cup at all, because you're going to pull some of that in. And don't forget your edges. Once you have your green on, let's go ahead and do our blue. Same thing, you load your brush up with some water, and I have a towel to wipe it off, or a paper towel, so I can get some of the green off. And I'm going to load it up, my paintbrush up with some water, and I'm still using the big brush. Grab some of the blue and start to smack it on there. To lighten it up, add some white. Notice I'm going over my cupcake because we're going to fix that here in a minute. Okay, don't forget your edges. Okay, and while we're still in the green, or the blue, let's go ahead and add some shadows under here, underneath your cupcake and your glass. So I'm grabbing some of the regular blue, the cerulean blue, which is the lighter one, and then I'm also adding some of the Prussian blue, which is the darker blue. And I'm just going to put a line underneath it, underneath my cup and my cupcake, and just pull it down. Okay, let's go ahead and start adding in some of the cupcake. I'm going to get a little water and some of the magenta. It's a pretty pink color. Okay, and I'm going to put in my cupcake liner. Okay, and actually I just made a mistake there. It's okay. I'm going to make my wrapper come down like that, and this should be the chocolate cupcake. Let me just go ahead and throw in some brown there so I know. While we're going to wait for that to dry, let's go ahead and block in our milk. Grab some of your white. And I'm going to make my milk come up to about here. You know, so I've got some color still in my paintbrush. I didn't wipe it off very well, but that's okay. It's a nice thing, all this stuff dries pretty quick. Alright, I'm going to grab a smaller paintbrush with the flat edge. I'm going to clean it out really well. Because what I'm going to do next is put in the highlights on the glass. So what I'm going to focus on is just where you would see the highlights hit the glass. So I'm going to grab some white. I just have some straight white. And I'm going to draw an oval. So I want my top of my glass maybe here. And I'm just touching it every so often. Because you need hard edges and soft edges. And I'm going to work on that. Okay. And same down on the side. And you'll notice I'm outside in with the green, because when you look through a glass, it's pulling in the colors from other areas. Alright, now I'm going to fill this in with some green. I make my milk look oval. There. Okay, now I'm going to block in my icing on my cupcake. So I'm taking the white and a little bit of the yellow ochre. Because with oil painting and acrylic, you start with the darkest spots first. And so I'm just kind of going to add my darkest colors first. I'm just going to block that in. Okay, now I've got my icing blocked in. So go ahead and work on that and we'll come back. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to add in our lines into the cupcake. Now there's a trick to this is, well, I turn up my painting upside down and I keep in mind like a vanishing point. So if I think about my vanishing points here, I know that I'm going to have a line here, 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 here. Notice I'm just pivoting my brush, and that way it'll all move towards that vanishing point. Okay, so first I'm going to grab some of this crimson, which is the darker red. And so if I have my line here, let's see, that you don't want to do, because that's saying the vanishing point's at the bottom. So what we want to do is pretend it's off the cupcake. Okay. Now the vanishing point for the cupcake liner is going to be at the bottom of the cupcake. Okay, and there we go. So those are our dark lines, shadows, and it doesn't matter if you go into the cupcake or into the bottom, because we're going to fix that later. Okay, so I'm going to continue to play with that. I'm going to add in the blue just to darken up my shadows. And then I'm going to add some of that blue down all over on the bottom and just pull it up. I'm going to take some of that same blue and pull it down. Okay. While we wait for that to dry a little bit, I'm going to work on my cup. Now there's another color that I want you to add to your palette, and that's this titanium white. It's a very thick titanium white. What we've been dealing with before is zinc white, and zinc white is more used for mixing. This titanium white's really going to stand out, and so you'll notice it'll cover up my lines here pretty well. So I'm going to grab some of the titanium white and put it on here. I don't want to cover up my whole glass because this is just the milk in my glass. Okay. And there's the only parts of the white that you should see are the highlights. So now we're going to add in some other colors to pull it around. Okay. So white reflects all colors. So we're going to add in some blue. So I'm going to grab some of my blue. And you notice on this one, I made like lines on it. So we could do that. Again, kind of think about a vanishing point. Okay. I'm going to pull in some pink because I see pink is over here. I'm just going to wipe off my brush a little bit and add some touches of pink. I'm also going to add in the bottom of my cup. This is when it helps to have a reference to look at because you'll actually see in the cup the bottom of it. Okay. Still taking the titanium white, I'm going to, where I have my highlights, just going to slowly pull them down just a bit. And that gives the reflection of the glass. And I'm going to take that titanium white and really add in some highlights. Now that your cupcake is pretty well dry, we can go in and add some pink into that. I'm going to take the mixing white and a little bit of the light pink and do my highlights. I'm going to darken up this over here, taking some of the red and some of the Prussian blue, starting in the inside of the cupcake and taking it out. Now I'm going to work on my cupcake itself. Clean off your brush. And I'm going to grab some of the brown and a little bit of the Prussian blue. So you notice I've got a little bit on my brush. I'm going to turn it upside down and work from the inside of the cupcake out. Now because the cupcake is coming out of the wrapper, we're going to add in some of these lines into it as well. So grabbing the same colors, you've got your Prussian blue and your brown, and we're just going to add in those lines. And the cupcake, these lines should be straight up and straight out. Alright, and I'm going to add some highlights into that by grabbing the yellow ochre, which is the only yellow on your thing. And I'm just going to pull those in just a little bit. Now, one of the tricks I gave the ladies the other night, use your finger. Don't necessarily do this with oil, so what I'm doing is dabbing it, and it's really kind of blending it in and giving it a kind of hodgepodge look. Because if you look at a cupcake, it's kind of crumbly. And by using your finger, it's going to be a lot less perfect. There we go. But if you're using oils, you know, get it off your finger pretty quick. But with acrylics, you're okay. Oils have lots of chemicals in them. Okay, so there's that. Now I'm going to play with my icing. So I'm going to grab some more of the titanium white, which is the good stuff right here. Nice and thick, and we're going to kind of clump that on, and I'm going to make my icing. Now you notice I'm not covering up all of my yellow. And I'm going to make it come over my liner here. And I'm even leaving some of the green in there because, again, white pulls in all the colors around it. Now I'm going to add the white while I have it on my brush to a cupcake liner, because you know, whenever you peel off the liner, get some of the icing with it. And a little trick is I'm pulling it up. You'll notice I'm just dabbling it on. Okay, so now while we're waiting for this to dry, I'm going to add in my darks right below here. So I'm going to grab that Prussian blue again, which is the dark blue, and put it directly under here. Okay, same under my cup. Prussian blue. Now what I'm going to do is mess with some crumbs. I'm going to add some crumbs into my cupcake, because whenever you peel off the wrapper, there's always some chocolate or some icing and crumbs stuck to it. So what I do is I'm going to take my brown, the burnt umber, and I'm going to pretend like I had way too much coffee and just just add it in there. Okay, then I'm going to take some of my yellow ochre and start making that stand out a little more. Yellow ochre on the tips, and same thing, just do. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add our cherry. I'm going to take the crimson red and just make a circle on top. Okay, we're going to let that dry just a little bit. So while we're waiting on that to dry, I'm going to start fixing my background just a little bit here to make my table a little more defined. Now my cherry should be a little more dry, so I'm going to really clean off my brush and wipe off the extra paint and water, and I'm going to add some highlights to it and lowlights. So I'm going to start with a highlight. I know my stem is going to go up that way or maybe that way, so I'm going to add where the stem would be based out of, just a little C. And then I'm going to add another little highlight. And because the cherry's I'm going to have it sitting inside of the icing, I'm going to add some lowlights in here. So wiping off my brush really well. I'm going to grab some of the Prussian blue and just touch it underneath. And same on this side. And then inside of the stem too, where the stem will go. I'm going to play with that a little bit. I'm going to use this thin brush to make my stem, and then I'm probably going to use my eraser brush too to make the stem really thin. So I'm going to add some water to my thin brush. I'm going to grab the red. Okay. And I'm going to start at the base of my cherry and pull it up. So now I'm going to use my eraser brush to thin my stem. Now I'm going to add a low light and a highlight to my stem using the same thin brush. I'm going to grab some of the white and just follow along. And then grab some of the brown, add some to the tip and to the base. I'm going to add a couple more highlights to the cupcake. If you remember from the last chocolate one that we did, there's always blue in chocolate for some reason. It's bringing in highlights. So I'm just going to add a couple little blue highlights. And again, just kind of like you've had way too much caffeine. I'm going to add in some low lights around my cupcake. I'm going to grab the brown and the Prussian blue and go right underneath where the cupcake icing is. Grab some of the blue and some of the red for the low lights are underneath the cupcake icing. There we go. And same with around here. A little bit of blue and some of the red right underneath the white. Where there's light, there's dark. Now we're going to add in our sprinkles. Some of the wipe off your brush, and you still have the small brush. And we're going to add some red. And for this, again, just dot it on there. And try not to get them in a line. And one thing I forgot to do is really sink the cherry inside into the icing, so I'm going to add some white up around that. There we go. And now that everything, all the white is pretty well dry, I'm going to go back and add in some of the straight white and just chunk it on there. And then you can sign it. And just water it down a little bit. You can even use a Sharpie if you want to. And there you go.